Mangwanani Malelepo Kenjani, Klekwas Vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show which remains your portal into Africa's most potent stories. Today is the 14th of July 2026, and Talent Gore will join us from Zimbabwe to deliver the Zimbabwe Report, including the signing into law the Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3, property issues with over 300,000 illegal homes in Zimbabwe, and the latest with regards to fuel. However, with regards to broader Africa, these are some of the stories we'll be looking at. South Africa deports over 53,000 foreign nationals in migration campaign. AFC M23 establishes separate Ebola response in rebel-controlled areas. Hichilema urges civil servants to back UPND for job protection in Zambia. Senegal dismiss Pape Thiaw following World Cup exit. DSTV 285, GOTV 25, oneup2.com, Network Media Hub, and NTVAFRIKA.MY.NA. That is where you can always watch the show. My name is Ashwin Berry. Top stories shortly.
Namibia is a land of movement, with waves that never stop reaching forward. Here, adventure is not something we search for. It is something we are born into. In every corner of this country, creativity rises, from artists, from athletes, from dreamers. And when the world comes to explore Namibia, they discover something extraordinary. Because when sport moves people, creativity moves ideas, and tourism moves the world toward us. Something powerful happens. A platform where movement meets imagination, where industries connect, where opportunity grows, where Namibia's next chapter begins. Welcome to the Creative Sport Tourism Expo. Exhibit, partner, experience. Creative Sport Tourism.
Let's get into the top stories on Africa Good Morning. South Africa says more than 53,000 foreign nationals have been deported or repatriated since launching a migration campaign 5 weeks ago. Officials said most of the processed were from Malawi, Zimbabwe, and Mozambique, with the total expected to increase as deportations and repatriations continue. Now, the campaign follows weeks of anti-immigration protests marked by violence, intimidation, and looting. Protesters have called for tighter border controls and mass deportations, claiming undocumented migrants contribute to unemployment, crime, and pressure on public services. The United Nations has warned against using migrants as scapegoats for South Africa's socio-economic challenges. Anti-migrant activists have threatened weekly protests, while demonstrators had set an unofficial deadline of 30 June for undocumented migrants to leave. Justice and Constitutional Development Minister Mamoloko Kubai said 53,499 foreign nationals had been processed for deportation and repatriation. She said authorities were pursuing orderly and regular migration while respecting human rights and dignity. Kubai added the process had assisted police in identifying wanted suspects and warned protesters against conducting unauthorized searches of homes and businesses suspected of sheltering undocumented migrants. Now, Congo's AFC M23 rebels used a small Ebola outbreak in areas under their control to demonstrate their administrative capacity by establishing a response largely separate from authorities in Kinshasa, with support from neighboring Rwanda. The response reflected the parallel administrative structures created after the group's advance, although analysts cautioned that the divided approach could complicate containment if the outbreak spreads. Rebel-held territories recorded 4 Ebola cases after the outbreak was declared on May 15, with 1 case in Goma and 3 near Bukavu. AFC M23 later declared the outbreak over in its territory following a 21-day monitoring period without new cases. Deputy Coordinator Freddie Kaniki said 400 contacts were monitored and 98% received daily follow-up, while response documents showed 207 samples had been tested by June 18. Government figures released on Saturday showed the wider outbreak had infected 1,873 people and killed 672. Rwanda supplied medicines and equipment, while 6 specialists supported surveillance, laboratories, logistics, and safe burials. Response documents also highlighted shortages of protective equipment, vehicles, fuel, and laboratory extraction kits, limiting testing capacity across rebel-held areas. Now, in Zimbabwe, we are going to be talking about that later, but I'm actually talking about Zambia. I got things mixed up there. It must be because of Victoria Falls or because I am married to a Zambian woman. Right. President Hakainde Hichilema of Zambia has urged civil servants to vote for the United Party for National Development in next month's general election, saying another term would protect public sector jobs and allow continued recruitment of teachers, health workers, and other public servants. Addressing campaign rallies in Shantumbu, Chilanga, and Kafue, Hichilema said public workers faced a clear choice after National Reconciliation Party for Unity and Prosperity presidential candidate Brian Mundubile said his administration would remove civil servants found to have acted in a partisan manner. Hichilema said his government had employed more than 45,000 teachers, over 20,000 health workers, and thousands in the defense and security services since 2021, adding that more employment opportunities would become available if UPND secured another mandate. He also said programs, including the free education policy, which he said had benefited about 2.5 million learners, required continuity through re-election. The president outlined development commitments for Shantumbu, Kafue, and Shilanga, including roads, hospitals, schools, water infrastructure, markets, multi-facility economic zones, and skills training centers, while urging supporters to help the UPND secure 5 million votes. And we end our top stories with African football. Senegal have dismissed their coach, Pape Thiaw, following the World Cup exit. Yes, this was the tournament in which they felt required a change in leadership after how it transpired. Senegal entered the competition after defeating Morocco in the Africa Cup of Nations final in January, but experienced a disappointing campaign. The team lost its opening 2 group matches against France and Norway before surrendering a 2-0 lead with 5 minutes remaining against Belgium in the round of 32 and eventually losing 3-2 after extra time. Thiaw, aged 45, leaves the position after 19 months in charge. He had also been due to begin a 5-match suspension in September at the start of the 2027 Cup of Nations qualifiers following a player walk-off in protest over a penalty awarded to Morocco during the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations final in Rabat. Senegal announced that the World Cup results made a coaching change necessary. Now, French newspaper L'Equipe reported that Patrick Vieira, the French World Cup winner and Arsenal champion, born in Dakar, was among the leading candidates to succeed Thiaw as national team coach. Well, we'll see how that goes. With regards to the World Cup itself, the semi-finals are here. France versus Spain, Argentina versus England. We'll see how it all transpires. This is still Africa. Good morning. Shortly, we'll be joined by Talent Gore delivering the Zimbabwe Report. In a world where politicians promise the moon and deliver potholes, where democracy sometimes arrives in camouflage and ballots often look like formalities, one show dares to laugh with Africa, at Africa, and sometimes for Africa. This is Second Take, your weekly dose of political satire with an African soul and a global edge. From coups disguised as press briefings to ministers moonwalking past accountability, we serve the real news with sharper writing. Each week we bring you the TikTok of the week because sometimes the revolution is vertical, and the heartwarming moment of the week to remind us that not everything is burning. We also sit down with the bold, the brilliant, and the brave, voices that question power, stir thought, and spark laughter. Because when the headlines are wild, the leaders are louder, and the truth is lost in translation, we all need a second take. Do watch the most recent episode of Second Take on NTVAFRIKA.MY.NA because we broached the subjects that we are about to with Talent Gore now. President Emmerson Mnangagwa of Zimbabwe has signed into law the Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3, which means that when it comes to elections, your direct vote as a Zimbabwean will not count, but the parliamentary one will. And when it comes to presidential terms, they have been extended. Zimbabwe will no longer have an election in 2028. It will now be in 2030. So these and other updates are stemming from this CAB 3 change. And Talent Gore is here with more.
President Emmerson Mnangagwa signed into law constitutional amendments extending presidential term from 5 years to 7 years, allowing him to remain in office until 2030 and abolishing the direct popular election of the president in favor of a vote by parliament. Both houses of parliament, which is the Senate and the National Assembly, were dominated by the ruling ZANU-PF party and its proxies, and they approved the bill late last month. Mnangagwa's assent to the Constitution of Zimbabwe Amendment Act number 3, 2026, published as Act number 6 of 2026, was announced in a special government gazette on Tuesday. The National Assembly voted 226 to 41 on June 30 to accept the changes proposed by the Senate, which had passed the bill by 75 votes to 4 on June 24. The new Section 92 does away with direct presidential elections introduced in 1987, replacing them with election by MPs and senators sitting jointly after every general election or whenever a vacancy arises. A candidate needs more than half of the valid vote cast by lawmakers to win, with a runoff between the top two candidates if no one secures a majority in the first round. The Zimbabwe Electoral Commission will administer the process, and a person elected president must give up their seat in parliament, and any vacancy in the presidency must be filled within 30 days, during which no law introducing substantive policy changes may be passed. So just last Tuesday, President Emmerson Mnangagwa signed into law the Constitution Amendment Bill number 3, which had gone for months in debate in Parliament, and also Constitution. This is the first time that the Constitution has been changed, especially in regards to presidential limits from 5 years to 7 years. Well, this is the first time since 1987 this act has been changed. So right now, it is no longer a Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3, but rather a Constitution Amendment Act. It has now been passed, and it is now in Parliament. And just on Sunday, President Emmerson Mnangagwa had an exclusive interview with state media editors, where he explained why it was necessary for the government of Zimbabwe to pass this into law. And he said that he expected Zimbabweans in general to be in favor of the Constitution Amendment Bill number 3, which is now a Constitution Amendment Act. So he said that he expected Zimbabweans to be in favor of this new law. So yes, that is all for now. And it seems like most people, those within the ruling party, they are quite happy with this Constitution Amendment Act now, but those opposition politicians, they are not quite happy with.
All right, Talent. Now, in your next story, there are apparently 390,000 illegal homes in Zimbabwe, which is essentially choking the property market.
Now, in my next story, the capital city's mayor, Jacob Mafumi, has said that Harare has recorded nearly 390,000 illegal households, warning that the rapid growth of unplanned settlements is placing immense pressure on service delivery. Mayor Mafumi says if the trend continues, illegal households could soon outnumber registered ratepayers. And the city is now serving a daytime population of about 2.5 million people and a nighttime population of 1.8 million people, while thousands of residents live without basic infrastructure. The mayor was saying this in front of the Parliamentary Portfolio on Local Government and Public Works yesterday, where he was lamenting that illegal households were choking Harare. He was saying that most of the people who live in surrounding areas which are surrounding Harare, they believe that they stay in Harare, but they got those stands rather illegally, and where they live, where they have built their houses, they are not serviced. There is no sewer systems, there is no potable water coming out of their taps, but rather people depend on wells and boreholes. And also there are no refuse collection trucks that come to collect garbage from those areas, and also there are no amenities, there are no schools, there are no clinics, and those people are forced to go into serviced areas. For example, there's a place called Hopley in Harare. It's close to areas like Glenora, Glenview, which is a serviced area. So you find out that those people from those areas, they migrate, they go to the schools in Glenora, they go to the schools and clinics in Glenora, and they are choking. So the mayor is saying that those people, they are choking the serviced systems in those particular areas, especially the amenities like clinics, like schools. And now the Mayor Mafumi was blaming land barons for causing such havoc. He said that land barons, they just come and they sell their land willy-nilly. They don't consult the local authority. They don't consult anyone. They just sell haphazardly. So it causes problems in the city. And now 390,000 households in Harare alone are unserviced. They are illegal, and they are choking Harare, because you find out that they do not pay rates. They are not rate payers households. So those that are paying now, those that are in serviced areas, those that are paying to the city council, they are now they are now subsidizing those who are living in illegal settlements. So the mayor was calling for the government to come in and try to help and rectify the situation. So right now there is a video in which the mayor was lamenting that as he was addressing the Parliamentary Portfolio on Local Government and Public Works.
All right, Talent, now if you could please take us into your last story with regards to fuel prices falling in Zimbabwe. We know the same happened in Namibia about a week ago.
And in my last story, Zimbabwe's fuel prices have fallen sharply from the highs recorded earlier this year as the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz continues to ease pressure on global oil markets following months of Middle East conflict. The Zimbabwe Energy Regulatory Authority on Wednesday announced a reduction in petroleum prices effective 8 July. with diesel dropping by 12 cents and petrol easing by 5 cents per liter. Diesel 50 now retails at $87 United States dollars per liter, down from $99, while Blend is now pegged at $93 per liter, down from $98 under the previous schedule on June 19. In local currency, diesel is priced at 50 ZiG 37 cents per liter, and Blend at 51 ZiG 83 cents per liter. The reduction marks a steep decline from prices recorded in early April, when diesel peaked at $2.11 per liter and Blend at $2.53 per liter, among the highest levels in Africa. At the time, Zera said cost pressures were being driven by conflict in the Middle East that had pushed the FOB prices of fuel up by 33.16% and petrol by 5.96% since the previous review, forcing the regulator onto a 2-week review cycle to avoid shortages. Zimbabwe has moved in step with the changing fuel landscape by raising its ethanol blending ratio to E20, up from E5, a blend used as recently as April. Zera had indicated in April that petrol prices were expected to ease with the commencement of local ethanol production, noting that raising the blending mandate to E20 would lower the petrol prices by around 18 cents. So this is the lowest that the fuel prices in Zimbabwe has gone since April 2026. Right now, it has gone the lowest, and people are quite happy with that, because at some point we were ranked among the highest.
Many thanks to Talent for delivering such a comprehensive Zimbabwe report. Tomorrow is Wednesday, which means we will be joined by Rorisang Mohojwe, who will be delivering the stories from Gaborone, Botswana, in the Botswana report. However, DSTV 285, GOTV 25, oneup2.com, Network Media Hub, and NTVAFRIKA.MY.NA is precisely where you can always find us. We're going to say goodbye now as we leave you with the economic indicators. Swera Jaganaka.